D, welcome to the Jacked Up podcast. We're finally going to get you in here and have this conversation. Welcome, my dear. How are
Yay.
you today?
Great. Now that I'm with you.
Yeah, I know. It's like we have struggled and struggled and struggled. We've tried this several times to get this all lined up, and we finally got everything working right. So here we're going to go with a great conversation. With all that being said, you have an extremely interesting story. You years ago you struggled with emotional eating and other things, and I'm not going to give away too much. I'll let you tell your story, but I find it extremely interesting that 30 years ago when you were struggling with all this stuff, you figured out a way out of it, and that's something that a lot of people 30 years ago couldn't do on their own. And because of that, that's why I was like really super excited to have you on the show. So with that being said, why don't you go ahead and take us back 30 years to when you were struggling with all that, with your weight and everything, and tell us some of the things that got you out of that.
Oh, I'd be glad to share it with you, John. It actually started in childhood. My mother was the most fabulous cook, incredible. And food was the emphasis in our household. And I was passive, not assertive as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And if she says, we're having dinner now, and I'd say, I'm not hungry.
Right.
This is when we're eating. We're eating now. If I left food on my plate, you're leaving food on your plate. It's a sin.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are starving.
Right.
If you don't finish your food, you can't go out and play.
Mm-hmm.
So food became an emphasis.
Right.
By the time I was 12, my mother wanted me to eat all her food, but she also wanted me to be thinner. I was overweight. So she took me to my first weight loss doctor. Mm-hmm. And that experience created a pattern in my life that I just was a yo-yo dieter, on and off, on and off, on and off for years and years and years. I would lose weight on the diet, but no matter how I tried to keep it sustained, I always gained it back. Mm-hmm. I felt like a failure. What's wrong with me? Right. So I went to my doctor. Thank goodness. I said, why can't I keep this weight off that I lose on a diet? Mm-hmm. D, diets are only a patch, not a fix. Not only that, you could get diabetes, you could harm your heart, your kidneys, etc. So, all those years, I said, I want to be thinner. I want to be thinner. But what good is being thinner if you're not healthy?
Right.
So I decided to study the body because for years and years, I heard that your body is smarter than you are. Mm-hmm. It took me 2 years. I can't tell you how simple and achievable it is. You know, people always say, what the heck is wellness? And how do I get it? I'd like to just talk about wellness for a minute.
Sure.
I want to share the definition of wellness published by the Wellness Council of America. Okay. Wellness, an intentional choice of a lifestyle characterized by personal responsibility, balance, and maximum personal enhancement of physical, mental, and spiritual health. Mm-hmm. 2 words stand out in this definition of wellness: personal responsibility. and lifestyle. Therefore, what creates a lifestyle in your life? Personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you become personally responsible for yourself? I've taught about 32,000 people.
Wow.
And you have to put the horse in front of the cart. And what does that mean? You have to become your own best friend. And when you become your own best friend, you become personally responsible for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to do that for you. That is so important.
Mm-hmm.
John, we're not born winners. We're not
Not at
born
all.
losers. We're all born choosers. If you choose wellness in your life, there are 4 power tools I can suggest for you to use to help get you what you have chosen. 1, want. That's interesting. Want. Oh, I want to be healthy. I want to be thinner. But do you want it enough to make some changes? Because nobody really likes to be changed but a baby when it's wet.
That's about it.
Second, ready. Are you ready to make the changes you need to make it happen for you? When I interview clients, I can tell right away if they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm on board.
Right.
Third, commitment. You must be committed to what you do. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
4, to achieve what you have chosen, action separates winners from losers. Your body is the only home you will ever live in.
Mm-hmm.
Choose to value your body and take care of it consistently. You can do it. You can make it happen. You deserve it.
Yep. We all deserve it. We all deserve it for sure.
Yes.
So basically you got to the point where you were sick of all the yo-yo dieting and you were like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
there has to be a better way. And you know, so many people are like that. So many people don't understand the damage that yo-yo dieting does to the metabolism and everything else too. You know, constantly calorie restriction, not calorie restriction, calorie restriction, not calorie restriction, cutting out carbs, cutting out fats, all these different things that people deprive themselves of, basically, all in the name of losing weight. And I personally hate the term losing weight. I much prefer losing body fat, because weight can be bone density, it can be muscle mass, it can be hydration level, it can be any number of those things. So if you're just focusing on the number on the scale, you're doing yourself a disservice. I tell all my clients, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go out and I want you to make sure. Yeah, I tell my clients all the time, I want you to go out and make sure that you have a decent scale. Have one that you know is pretty accurate. And then once you get that scale, I want you to throw it in the closet and only dig it out about once a month. That way, if you're not focusing so much on losing the weight and you're focusing more on maintaining your nutrition, maintaining exercise, you're going to wind up building lifestyle habits that'll last you a lifetime.
You know, we have a hypothalamus in our brain. Mm-hmm. Say that you're on a diet. Salad, unlimited amount. You have this big, huge salad, but you have to use this diet dressing. And it's really yuck. Mm-hmm. And you eat every leaf. And when you're finished, you say, oh my God, I'm so full. But what's wrong with me? I still want.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You pick a little here, you pick a little there. You graze all day.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be satisfied with what you are eating.
Oh, yeah.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I give all my clients a room full of gold for the rest of their life. And I will explain what a room full of gold is.
Okay.
John, what if I told you that you're obsessed, by the way, with gold bars. That's all you think of morning, day, and night. And I say, John,
Okay.
I have a room full of gold bars. You can come into my room whenever you want to. But once you get into my room, you only have 3 minutes in my room.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do in those 3 minutes? You're obsessed.
Oh, well, obviously you're going to be grabbing all the gold bars that you can carry.
Absolutely. I would take a U-Haul it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what happens when you're deprived. Now, say that I have a room full of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, John, I have a room full of gold. And you can come into my room whenever you need some.
Mm-hmm.
Morning, noon, evening, every day. For the rest of your life, you can come in and out whenever you need some. What would you do then?
You take your time. You come in, take 1 bar a day here, one bar a day
Right.
here. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You take what you need.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
all mental.
Yeah.
It's mind over fatter.
That's
what it is.
I love it. I love it. Mind over fatter.
But it
I love
is.
it. Yeah, you're right
It's
though.
mind
You're absolutely right.
It is. It's mental. So
Mhm.
I learned I have a room full of gold for the rest of my life. I lost 42 and a half pounds over 30 years ago, and I haven't gained a pound back, and I eat what I choose.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
I learned that there were 2 hungers. I heard for years, as I said before, that your body is smarter than you are.
Mhm.
You have physical body hunger and emotional mind hunger. I was always afraid of hunger. If I got hungry, I would say, oh my God, I'm hungry. I better eat now or I might vanish from the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But I made hunger my friend. When your body needs fuel, and by the way, your body only looks at food as fuel.
Exactly.
When you eat, when you're physically body hungry, you eat and burn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some foods that burn faster and better than others, and that's when we go into nutrition.
Right.
Which is important.
Mm-hmm.
Give you an example. If you were driving on the road in your car, how would you know you need fuel? Your fuel gauge tells you.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like your wonderful body. When you listen to your body, you learn there are levels of hunger and fullness and stuffed. And you don't want to get to the level of being so hungry that you feel starved and you eat everything in sight and more.
Yeah.
That's not good either, is it?
Nope. No, not at all.
Oh.
And believe it or not, that's what happens more often than not. You have people that are doing extremely low calorie deficit diets and things of that nature. And when they do have a chance where they can eat, whether they plan to have an off program day or something like that, or when they get done with the diet, when they're all done. The diet was only 12 weeks. My 12 weeks is up, so my diet's over. Now I can eat what I want. Nothing got fixed during those 12 weeks because, just as you said in the beginning of all this, dieting is a patch. Education is the cure. Plain and simple.
Right.
Educating people on what nutrition does in the body, what you need to eat for the energy needs that you have versus what you don't need to eat. That education is the key to making lasting change.
Exactly. So I learned to listen to my body. And that's why I've sustained all my weight loss. Mm-hmm. So if you learn to listen to your body that is smarter than you are, mm-hmm. and realize that it signals you that it needs fuel. It's mm-hmm. as simple as that.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Mm-hmm. And I was an emotional eater. All those diets that I went on, mm-hmm. I can't even remember how many. None of them helped me with my emotional eating. They never talked about it. Never. Right. Mm-hmm. When I studied the body, it became plain and simple. When you feed food to your emotions, your mm-hmm. body will not burn that fuel because it doesn't need it. Mm-hmm. It breaks it down into fats and sugars and stores it in your fat cells. So if you're eating because you're tired, lonely, stressed, mm-hmm. happy, celebrating, holiday, everybody else is eating. You pass the refrigerator, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. You are eating emotionally.
Yeah.
So, therefore, I didn't want to wear it. So, I needed food for my soul. Mm. I created what I call life enhancers. Okay. A life enhancer a day keeps the fat away. And I made a list of things that make me feel good, that make me happy, right. that give me comfort. Mm-hmm. And I have everybody that's taken the program make a list.
Right.
Life enhancers have no calories. Mm-hmm. Life enhancers are appetite suppressants. As an example, on my list, some of the things are morning anticipation, looking forward to something that will make you feel good each day, rest, sleep, or just feed up, relaxing time, mm-hmm. movement, taking a walk, listening to music. I love that one. To lift your spirits, match your mood, or relax you. Closure is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. See something to a satisfying finish. Maybe it's cleaning out that drawer that you've wanted to do for a year. Mm-hmm. Boy, do you feel good after you do it. That's close.
Right.
So I always say, life should be your only binge.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I totally agree with that. Absolutely. It's like so much of the biggest piece of the puzzle for all this, for me anyway, and the way I approach things with my clients is it's all about your mindset and how you look at things. Going back and touching to your point, if we start to look at food as fuel rather than entertainment or something to appease us if we're upset or something like that, if we simply look at food as fuel, we're less likely to have those times where we're passing the refrigerator and we've had a bad day, so we decide to stop and grab something to eat that we shouldn't eat, because the body only requires so much fuel a day. There are 2 or 3 that I can think of off the top of my head, different formulas that coaches and fitness professionals use to determine someone's total daily energy expenditure, for example. For someone of your height, your weight, with your activity level, you only require so much energy a day. That's science. There's no disputing that. So if you are eating more energy, which that's basically what calories are, it's a unit of measurement of energy. If you're eating more calories, more energy in the course of a day than what you need, what happens? It gets stored. It gets stored for later use, because our body's a hoarder. Our body wants to be a hoarder. Once it gets the nutrients in there, it wants to hang on to all of them, because, I never know when food's going to run out. So I may need them again sometime. So I need to hang on to them. And that's where people need to realize that the emotional eating and the eating that doesn't serve a purpose, that's the stuff that's dangerous. That's the stuff that gets you in trouble and keeps you in trouble.
Right.
Yep.
And emotional eating gives you a slice of shame.
I like that. Slice of shame. But when you think about it though, D, and you know this as well as I do, when we're emotionally upset, certain hormones are more elevated than others and things like that. And because of that metabolic situation going on at that time, our body may process the food we're eating differently than it would if we were in a different frame of mind. One of my favorite mentors, Tony Robbins, he talks about all the time, he talks about the state of mind. And he says, one of the best ways to change your state is to change your physiology. Get up and move, do something. You would be amazed if you go out, if you're in a bad mood, you go out and you walk around the block 3 times. Typically you'll find that after you're done walking around the block 3 times, you're not in a bad mood anymore. Because all of these chemical changes and whatnot have happened in your body due to the exertion, the burning of energy, that it actually changes your state of mind. So when you apply that same logic to the food that people eat, it's really easy to see how, like I said, your body will do different things with the nutrients that you eat when you're in a bad mood or depressed or something like that, versus what it'll do when you're happy and feeling energized.
Correct.
Yep.
Very true.
So,
we're on the same page.
We are, it's like I've read a lot of the stuff that you sent me as far as your bio and whatnot, and other things that I've been able to find. Our way of looking at things, our way of helping people deal with nutrition is so like, we are like on the same track. We're 2 different trains on the same track. And it's like, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the next biggest, shiniest diet that comes down the line is, because if that's what you're waiting on, you're going to get the same results out of that diet that you got out of the last diet. And you know this from your own experience with the yo-yo dieting. I lost 15 pounds on that diet. That diet was great. Well, now this next diet comes out and you've already gained that 15 pounds back. And in some cases, a few pounds more. And then the next new diet comes out and you're all about that. That's going to be the next thing that helps you. I mean, I literally had to answer a comment in a big Facebook group that I'm a part of today, where somebody was citing that the new movement, eating for your DNA, people doing these companies are charging for DNA scans, and then they tell you based on your DNA scan what you should be eating to have optimal health. Come on. That is absolute. I don't even want to say what it is. It's horrible. It's horrible. But this is one of those things that people will jump on and say, hey, oh man, well, this is science because they're scanning my DNA so they know exactly what my body needs. No, they don't have a clue.
Your body tells you.
Absolutely. Like you just said. Yep, it does. And if the thing is though, D, you've got to listen. And that's where most people fail.
That's the key.
Yes, that is where most people fail. It really is. It's like some people, they don't realize that, you know, depending on what their goals are. Some people are actually trying to get rid of body fat. Some people are trying to put on size, depending on what their goal. The goals that people can have are so vast that for anybody to say, hey, this is the next greatest diet, and just put it out there and expect everybody to have the same results from this diet, you know, there's a flaw in that logic there, because we're all individuals. There are some people that, even though they may not have a problem with diabetes or something, their bodies just don't process carbohydrates well. That's just the way their makeup is. So for them, if they eat too many carbohydrates, that gets turned to fat and they wind up struggling with their weight on a regular basis. Some people can't tolerate greens and things like that. People with celiac disease and things like that. And if they ingest these grains, different things happen for different people. So I don't, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, John, I eat gluten-free. Why? Because when I eat wheat, my stomach starts to hurt and I get bloated.
Right.
It's telling me. It's telling me it can't tolerate it.
Yep. Exactly. And it's and you have learned to listen. You have learned to listen to your body, and that's where so many people don't. They don't. And I was the same way. When I weighed 405 pounds, I wasn't listening to my body. I was eating junk, and my body was screaming at me to stop, screaming. But I wasn't doing it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to live my life. I'm going to eat what I want. I'm going to drink what I want. And when my time comes, my time comes. Well, then I woke up in the hospital one day after being in a diabetic coma, and I got a doctor looking at me saying, you'll be dead in a year if you don't change your life. That changed my thought process quite a bit, quite fast.
Right.
You know, and I hate to see people have to come to that. I really do. You know, there are so many good people out here in the world that are trying to help other people by educating them on, you know, proper nutrition, proper exercise. But people just don't, it's either they can't grasp the concept, they don't want to grasp the concept because they feel like they're going to have to give up everything in order to live this lifestyle. And that's not the case. You can completely eat foods. You can completely eat foods that you love. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure you deal with that a lot with your clients too. When they first come to you, they probably think, well, my goodness, I'm going to have to cut out all kinds of foods.
You cut out foods that your body can't tolerate. That's what you have to cut out.
Right.
And sugar is dangerous. And I know people don't like to hear that because the worst part about sugar is that it's addictive. And it feeds cancer cells.
Yes.
So you want to limit it. Why do you want to eat something like that?
Yep.
Why can't you eat it once in a while? And in moderation?
Yeah.
This is what a lifestyle is. Diets cannot be a lifestyle. No way. They can't continue. So what do people do when they go off of it? They overeat the foods that we're deprived of.
Yep. Oh yeah. D, if I tell you you can't have a piece of pizza, what are you going to want more than anything? A piece of pizza. That's what you're going to want. Yeah, exactly. That's what you're right. If I tell you you can't have a scoop of ice cream, you're going to want that scoop of ice cream really bad.
That's why you need a room full of gold.
Yes, exactly. You need a room full of gold. You're exactly correct. You know, I really like that correlation. I really like how you have made that connection, and that's a powerful thing that I think people are going to get a lot of value out of when they see this episode, because it
I
is
hope
just
so.
that simple. It is
My
just that
passion is
simple.
helping people.
Yes, yes. You and I are kindred spirits in that respect. I'm the exact same way, and I like the fact that you touched on the sugar. The whole carbohydrate versus non-carbohydrate debate is huge right now. You have people that are performance athletes and they're, coaches of guys that are power lifters and stuff like that. They say, well, you can't be an elite athlete without carbohydrates. But yet I know of several ultra marathon runners that will run 140 miles in the course of 4 days that use exogenous ketones for fuel, and they don't use glucose. They don't eat carbohydrates when they're on the run. They take beta hydroxybutyrate, which is a ketone body that your liver makes when you're in ketosis. So, the science is there that proves we don't need carbohydrates. And whether you choose to eat them or not, that's a personal preference. And as we've already touched on, anything in moderation is fine. But when you look at the 3 macronutrients, you break those down and look at what they do in the body. If you eat too much protein or you eat too much fat, you can eliminate that. Your body will eliminate it and get rid of it. That is not the case with carbohydrates. I say this all the time. If you eat too many carbohydrates, your body has one of two choices. You either have to burn them for energy or they get stored. And when they get stored in the form of triglycerides, body fat.
There's 2 carbohydrates. There's simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates.
Right.
Your simple carbohydrates are your sugars, your candy, your drinks, your cakes, your pies, your cookies, flour products, including white bread, bagels, crackers, etc.
Sure.
So those kind of foods you want to do really in moderation. But you have to know that you can have it if you need, if you desire it.
Right.
Not to cheat with it, with it. Your complex carbohydrates are vegetables, which are, last night I made my husband and I, it was so good, a big bowl of vegetable salad. I had romaine, I had spinach, I had chopped yellow peppers, red peppers, beets. Beets are very healthy, little round beets.
Yeah. Yep.
I had cucumbers and shrimp with a little salad dressing that was no salt.
Right.
And I make a ranch dressing that doesn't have any salt or sugar. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep. Yeah. It just takes a little imagination. You can eat healthy and enjoy what you're eating. It just takes a little imagination. It's just that simple. And if you are working with someone, or if you have developed a nutritional protocol that works well for you, you can maintain your weight, your body fat isn't too far out of whack and all that stuff. If you have that, that still doesn't mean that you can't live. You can go to a barbecue and have a hot dog and a hamburger and a handful of potato chips or something if you want to. It's perfectly okay to do that type of thing. But people that diet can't, because a diet is all based around depriving yourself. Whereas a healthy lifestyle, you're not depriving yourself. And when those times come along where you are going to that cookout or you are going to that birthday party for a piece of cake and ice cream, it's not a matter of binging. You plan for it. You know you're going to do it. So maybe that morning you lay off the carbohydrates a little bit with your breakfast and your lunch. You don't eat so many carbs during those times because you know you're going to be eating a fair amount of carbs later in the afternoon or something like that. If you plan for it, it's not devastating to your body, and more often than not, you'll have that one small piece of cake and that one scoop of ice cream and you won't binge. because you're not
It's
in
so
that
true.
mindset where you're not in that mindset where, oh, I can't have that type of food. And then when you have that moment where you can, you go crazy.
If I was committed to be executed for murder,
Mm-hmm.
I would order for my last supper
Mm-hmm.
a piece of key lime pie. Now, what I do with key lime pie, I make a whole pie and I cut it in medium-sized pieces to share with my
Mm-hmm.
husband.
Right.
And I have it in my freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And it stays for months and months and months because
Oh,
I
sure.
only eat it when I really feel like it. That's
Mm-hmm.
what a room full of gold does. I know
Right.
it's there. I can have it when I want it.
Right. Yep.
It's mental.
Yeah.
It's mind
Absolutely.
over fatter.
Yeah, people are going to be hearing that a lot out of me, and I'm going to tell them where I heard it from because I love that. I really do. It's like we've talked about the word diet a fair amount, during this episode, and a good friend of mine that was actually one of my early guests on my podcast. Her name is Misty Harris. We were having the conversation actually while we were recording her episode, and she was like, "You know what?" She said, "I don't believe in diets." I said, "Well, why is that?" She said, "Well, to start with, the first 3 letters in diet spell die. That doesn't sound very healthy to me." And me too. And I have used that so many times since then because
That's good. I like that.
I never looked at the word diet like that. I didn't.
That's good.
You hear the word and you see the word, you don't think anything of it. And when it's amazing how someone can break down a word or a concept in a different way. And it could be something that you've been exposed to your entire life. And all they have to do is break it down in one certain way that puts it in a light that you've never seen it before. It's amazing how profound an impact it can have on what you're doing with your life.
Yes, it is. It is. I have to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 cats.
Okay.
And they're brothers.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Amos and Andy. And every morning, traditionally, I walk through the house to the breakfast room and I cry out, "Treats! Treats!" And they're following me.
Oh,
and
yeah?
I shake the bottle of treats and I pour some on the floor. And they start eating them. Do you know something, John? They took my program. They stopped. Sometimes they leave 3. Sometimes they don't leave any. Sometimes they leave a half a dozen. They're naturally thin mentalities.
They're stocking up their room full of gold.
Yeah, right.
That is awesome. That is so great. I don't have cats. I have dogs. And let me tell you, pets, pets in and of themselves are amazing. And let's touch on that for a second. I actually read several studies that were done over in China and Japan, and they talked about how spending 15 minutes a day bonding with a pet can literally lower your blood pressure. It can reduce your heart. It can reduce your heart rate. It reduces all markers of stress just by spending 15 minutes with your dog or cat, something that you normally do anyway, unless you are one of those people that has pets and then you get so hectic with your life that you don't have time for the pets either.
Oh,
not only is that bad for the pets, but look at what you're missing out on.
That's so true.
It's
our Amos and Andy sleep with us.
Oh,
and, yeah. And they're in the bed with us and maybe we're watching the baseball game. Mm-hmm. And it just feels so good when they cuddle up with us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's nothing like it.
Nope. I have a total of 5 dogs. I have 4 pugs.
Wow.
And I have a little Chiweenie dog. He's part Dachshund and part Chihuahua. And I'm going to tell you, the pugs especially, they have magic powers. I can have all kinds of energy. I can be wide awake, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But if I go and I sit down to watch a television show and those dogs get up on me, they're asleep in a half an hour and so am I. It never fails. So it's like if I want to watch a movie, I make sure we keep our dogs stay in one area of the house, because with that many dogs, it can be rather difficult to let them just run through the house. So, but we have a family room downstairs. We have a TV and everything down there. My grandkids go down there. That's the first place they head when they come to Grandpa's house. They head down to the family room with the dogs, and they're loving life. But it's like, I know if I want to watch a movie, I can't go downstairs to watch it, because if I do, I'm never going to make it through the movie. I'm going to pass out. Yep. Yep. Pugs have magical powers. I'm firmly convinced.
Oh, people will, some of my clients, a lot of my clients will tell me they're lonely. I say, get a pet. Get a pet.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All those things, being lonely, being stressed, all of those play a part in everything that we're talking about here. You know, for a lot of years, you would hear the term emotional eating, and a lot of people just kind of waved it off as being kind of woo-woo and not being real. It is 100% real. I'm like you. I'm an emotional eater. If I'm on, and even though I know everything that I know, and I've walked the journey that I've walked, I still find myself at times, if my stress level gets too much, or if I'm at a low point for whatever reason, whether I've lost a loved one or something like that, I will still emotionally eat, because that's just one of those things that has been in me since I was a kid. The only difference is, under most circumstances nowadays, I have that type of stuff under control. And that's what makes the difference. Learning to do stuff like that is what makes the difference in creating a healthy lifestyle.
What I learned, John, the tragedy is we don't realize how powerful we are. Mm-hmm. Your body and your brain work together. What's the difference between perception and reality? What is the difference?
Perception is reality to those that want to look at it like that.
Absolutely. Your perception becomes your reality.
Yep.
If you change your perception, you can change your reality.
Absolutely.
That's so powerful.
It is.
Say that you're eating some food and it's absolutely fabulous. And you reach total satisfaction. You're not hungry anymore. There's still food on your plate.
Right.
Your perception could be, oh, this is the food on my plate. I'm going to finish this.
Right.
Whereas another person eating this wonderful food and reaches no hunger anymore says, this is the best I've ever eaten, and there's still food on my plate. But if I continue eating, I'm going to wear it.
Yep.
It's what you feed your brain.
Yes. Exactly. What you feed your brain. The brain is the CPU. It's in charge of everything. If you can literally take a food that you love, and they've proven this in many, many scientific studies. You could take 50 people that absolutely love chocolate, have to have chocolate every day of their lives, and you can condition them to hate chocolate over a period of time simply by changing their perception of what chocolate is. So when you look at something that's, something that trivial, whether or not you like chocolate, and how that can be changed, just think about how all of those disordered eating habits and things like that you've been suffering with for so long, that have been causing your weight to go up and down, what happens to those when you start working with somebody that has the knowledge and has the ability to guide you down that road to say, hey, that binge eating is not healthy for you. And that sticks in your brain. That sticks in your CPU. When that happens,
That's right.
that's when change happens. And I mean big time change.
That's so true, John. But the key is caring enough about yourself to want to be healthy and do what it takes. Becoming your own self-esteem is the key.
Yeah.
I've taught CEOs of huge companies that drive Maseratis, okay? And they don't have self-esteem.
Yeah.
What the car they drive is part of their self-esteem. The CEO part is. But what do they feel inside?
Yeah.
Everything has to happen from the inside out. Does that make
Without a
sense?
doubt. Yes. It totally makes sense. For sure. All right, Dee, we're starting to run out of time. Is there anything else you want to talk about that we haven't already touched on?
Well, I'll give you another tip. I used to gulp food. And when you're drinking and when you're drinking a lot of water or whatever, soda, whatever, which is not good,
Right.
and eating, you're going to overeat. You think you're full, and you're full of the liquid.
Yeah.
And then 15 minutes later, oh, I'm hungry.
Yep.
You shouldn't have cold liquid or room temperature liquid while you are eating. You can sip coffee or sip some tea because you're sipping it.
Right.
Okay. There's a big difference.
Yep.
Also, eating slowly is a key.
Oh, yeah.
Less becomes more when you eat slowly. Okay. So I used to gulp food and eat fast. And that was my biggest challenge for me to change.
Yeah.
And what I did is I developed a method where I would take some food, a mouthful of food, and I would chew it normally, but I put my fork down. And I'd count to 20 before I picked up my fork again. And if I was really desperate, I'd eat with my left hand. That really slows me down. So, but eating slowly really works.
Yeah.
But you eat less.
Yes, exactly. Not to mention the fact that science has also proven that the more you chew your food, the longer it's going to take to eat, which also just, to your point, it slows down the time, which means more often than not, you're going to eat less. But the other two things that happen is, number one, you're burning calories while you're chewing food. and
Right.
Number two, that food is broken down a lot more than what it is if you weren't chewing it as much, which means it's much easier to digest, which means it's much easier to absorb the nutrients contained in the food. So yes,
Right.
By all means, slow down. I love the putting your fork down and counting to 20 before you pick it up again. Take some extra time to chew your food another 10 or 15 rounds. It's not going to hurt anything. You're going to get more out of the food, and you're going to burn a few calories in the process.
Absolutely. You're so right. And I just want to touch base quickly on exercise. I used to think exercise was a foreign country. I never did it.
Right.
But when I read about the body, you don't need a boot camp.
Nope.
You don't need a boot camp. But the word attached to exercise is consistency.
Yes.
That's the word. Do something that you will do consistently. And I get on my elliptical 3 to 4 days a week for 30 minutes. And I'm consistent with it. If I can't do the 30 minutes, I don't say, well, I just can't. This day isn't going to let me.
Right.
I do it 15 minutes.
Right.
But I do it.
Absolutely.
Make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's like I can tell you a quick story about the last 18 months of my life. I spent a lot of time where I couldn't get on an elliptical. I couldn't spend much time on my feet at all due to knee issues I had. Wound up having to have one knee replaced and have a bunch of surgery on the other one.
Oh boy.
And even though I know everything I know about nutrition, I knew that I wasn't at the gym, so I wasn't eating as many calories because I wasn't training 5 days a week. I wasn't getting all the activity. I cut my calories back, and I still, over 18 months, gained 50 pounds. Activity, moving, doing some sort of exercise is critical. Just 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes on an elliptical. Go outside and walk for 15, 20 minutes. You know, like take your dog for a walk around the block or a few times or something like that. Any of those little small things can make huge differences if your nutrition's on point. You know, but so many people, they'll work on their nutrition, but then it's like, oh yeah, exercising, that just isn't for me. Well, okay, maybe going to a gym isn't for you, but that doesn't mean you can't be active and do something, because anything that you do, you know, it's like I heard this saying one time, and it went like this. It says, if you get up off the couch and you go out and you walk around the block and come back in your house and sit down on the couch, you literally lapped everybody that was still sitting on the couch. You did more work than those people did. And that's so simple when you break it down, but yet it's so powerful. It doesn't take a lot, but it takes something. You need to do something. And every day, if you start doing something, every day, something more becomes easier and easier. For sure.
That's so true. You know, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have wellness, it's the most important thing to decide to create in your life.
Absolutely.
You can't buy it. You have to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, because those people that have all the money.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I just put my program online because I want to help people all over.
Okay.
When they can't, they can take the program when they have time. Our culture has changed.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately. But you know what? They say that this is the new normal. Who knows if it is, who knows if it isn't, but I can tell you this. There are a lot of people at home. I know that I was doing some research for a blog post that I'm getting ready to write. And I know that back in February of this year, the CDC released a study that as of 2018, the obesity rate for adults was 42.5%. Now that was at the end of 2018. They released that in February. We've been under a pandemic, a lockdown, and a lot of people have just been sitting around and emotionally eating. I would not be surprised to see that same report get released at the beginning of next year, and we're up over 50%. I totally get that
I'm
Corona
afraid you're
is
right.
Yeah, and I totally get that Corona is a serious thing. I completely understand a lot of the precautions that are being taken, but let's look at obesity. Let's look at obesity for what it is. It has killed and will kill, yet to come, more people than Corona will ever take away.
Yes.
So I believe more
totally
emphasis needs to be placed on that. Yep, for sure. Okay, Dee, we're about out of time. Why don't you take a second and let everybody know where they can find you if they want to connect with you?
Well, they can find me at dwolk@thinneryou.com.
Okay.
dwolk.com.
Okay.
They can call me. I will give them a free consultation.
That's awesome.
My passion is not only to change people's waistlines, but to change their life. Mm-hmm. So if they need to call me and if they have questions, 216 464 8778.
There you go. Dee, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for being so patient and working through all the troubles we went through to try to get this together. This episode has been everything I thought it would be and more. I knew
good.
with our outlook on what it is that we do and everything that we feel being so similar, I knew this was going to be a really great episode. So I truly want to thank you for being on the show.
John, this has been so exciting. You are a real person. And
As are you.
it's a pleasure to know you.
Likewise, I'm sure. Okay, sit tight. I'm going to flip over and wrap this up, and then I'll be right back to talk to you before we head out.
Okay.
All right, guys. This was an awesome episode, plain and simple. Dee is amazing. I love her mindset. I love the way that she thinks. She takes a lot of the concepts that I live and breathe, and she looks at them and describes them in an entirely different light. And I've learned a ton from having this conversation with her. So I know you guys have too. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends, as many people as possible. After you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit that bell so that way you get notified when I drop new episodes of the podcast. And you guys know my motto: playtime's over. It's time to go to work.